Next item is public hearings, appeals, presentations, recognitions, and awards. And item 5A is presentation discussion of agenda for public meetings, including process used by city administration to prepare city council, Broken Arrow Municipal Authority, and Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority agenda. How the process works, transparency, and explanation of the process for review and approval. Mr. Spurgeon.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good evening. We did change the agenda up a little bit this evening to show a video regarding how our agenda is actually prepared. And what I'd like to start off by saying is that, you know, with today's technology, I think it's a great opportunity about once a year or so for us to take a little bit of time and step back and use this technology to let people that might be tuning in for the first time. You know, there's a lot of folks that go about their lives that really don't pay a whole lot of attention to what goes on in City Hall. And then there's those that pretty much pay attention on a regular basis. And I think if we take the opportunity every now and then to explain what our agenda is and how it's put together, I think it would be helpful to other folks in our community on learning this process. So what I have is just a short 5-minute video that we prepared last year. And after this video, I'd like to just give a short PowerPoint presentation that explains how the agenda is prepared. So if we go ahead, John.
Hi, folks. I'm Broken Arrow City Manager Michael Spurgeon. It's another beautiful day in the city of Broken Arrow. Today we're going to be talking about the city council meetings and the agendas. And as I've been mentioning, our city council meets every first and third Tuesday of each month. And today we're going to be talking more about the agendas and what the agendas consist of. First, a little bit about why we have city council meetings. The city council is a governing body that creates new laws, authorizes city projects, and determines where our public dollars are spent. That's why attending city council meetings are the most important, transparent way for you to know what's going on in your city and community. What you're seeing here is the city council chambers. It's in City Hall across from the one-stop center. Up front is the dais, and this is where our city council members sit. You'll also see our city clerk, city attorney, and myself sitting on this row as well. You can follow along in the meetings by looking at the agenda. It's a simple document that looks like this, which is available at the meeting as well as on our website. We try to post the agenda every Friday before the upcoming meeting. Our city council meetings are at 6:30 on the first and third Tuesdays of each month. In June, because we have Tuesdays in the park, we move them to the first and third Mondays respectively. Looking at the agenda, the first 4 sections are standard practice. Section 5 is our consent agenda. The consent items are voted on all in one motion and include regular day-to-day business like street repairs, contract renewals, and approval of last meeting's minutes. Sometimes a council member will pull an item from consent, so Section 6 allows council members to discuss the item pulled and vote on it individually. Section 7 is for public hearings, presentations, and recognitions. This is the section where we initially presented our budget for the fiscal year, and then we held the public hearing on it. Other organizations also do presentations. For example, the Tulsa City County Library shared information about their summer reading program. It's also an opportunity to recognize outstanding individuals like our employees. For example, Officer Mark Baldwin and his canine Gyra for winning a national award. Section 8 allows our citizens to talk to the council about things that are important to them. If you want to speak in front of the council, you will need to fill out a request to speak form before the meeting, and at this portion of the meeting, you will be called to the front to address council. You get 3 minutes to talk about anything related to the city operations or within the community. Next, we have the general council business section. These are items we want council to give more attention to before we make a decision. These are also items that the public may want to address the council on. This section would include tort claims and projects that involve a significant amount of funding. Sections 10 and 11 have to do with our ordinances. Ordinances are actual laws that will be enforced. So this will include anything you can be fined for, jailed, or have civil action brought against you. It also includes annexation because ordinances dictate the city limits. Ordinances have to be previewed before they are approved, so Section 10 gives council members an opportunity to review the proposed ordinance and decide if any changes may be needed before final passage is considered. Normally, preview ordinances get voted on at a later meeting, so Section 11 contains ordinances that have already been previewed and council is ready to take action on. Sections 12 and 13 are just sections for the council members and me to make some general comments about various matters involving the community or the operation. I'm going to skip item 14 for a minute and briefly explain BAMA and BETA. After the city council meeting adjourns, the mayor immediately opens up the BAMA meeting. BAMA, or the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority, oversees our utilities. Items in the BAMA meeting will usually refer to water, solid waste, and sewer services. Immediately following BAMA is BETA, or the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority. BETA discusses commercial business activity within the community. Both authorities' agendas are set up similarly to the city council, though they tend to be much shorter in length. All three of our meetings do allow for what they call an executive session, and we normally hold these meetings after the third meeting of the night. Executive sessions allow city council to speak privately with the city manager and city attorney and are regulated by state law. The Open Public Meetings Act allows for the following to be discussed privately: matters involving the hiring and firing employees, union negotiations, the purchase or appraisal of land or other real estate, confidential communications between this council, city management, and the city attorney concerning sensitive matters that can include pending litigation, claims, and investigations. Under those circumstances, we would head into executive session. An executive session has to be put on the agenda, and the items that will be discussed must be listed so the public knows what those items are. After the executive session is finished, the council will open the meeting back up and take a public vote. By Oklahoma law, any action taken on an item discussed in executive session has to be made public. Over my career, I've learned that one of the most important responsibilities that we have as city officials is to effectively communicate with our citizens what's going on within the community. This video was prepared to help our community have a better understanding how the city council operates when it comes to meetings agenda. It's important that we give you this information so you'll have access to find out exactly what happened at the meetings. So we hope that you learned something about the way we do business. You can always look at the agenda on the website. And of course, you're always welcome to attend a city council meeting. Till next time, we hope you've enjoyed this segment. I'm Michael Spurgeon, Broken Arrow City Manager. Have a great day.
Okay, that's been running since probably, I would say, late last summer, and it's on Channel 24 on a regular basis, and it's also on our website. So really, that focused on exactly what the agenda was. You know, and most people that are in the audience tonight, and certainly the folks that are up on the dais, know that process. What I want to talk about now is a short little PowerPoint presentation that talks about the preparation of the agenda and what the administration, which I define as all of the departments that work for the city, we do every single week and 2 weeks to prepare all of you to be able to make the decisions you make that are on the agenda. So here we go. Agenda preparation steps. And this is for the City Council, BAMA, and BETA. And there are essentially 4 things that we always keep in mind. There's always the preparation of fact sheets, and every item, as the council members know, there is a fact sheet that goes along with every single item. All the documents have to be loaded into what is known as Legislar, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. And then there is a complete approval process where certain individuals have to approve the item to advance to the next step, and we'll talk about that here in just a second here. And then last is there's the publish and the distribution of the agendas. Agendas for public meetings are prepared by City of Broken Arrow staff members using a software known as Legistar. This includes the City Council meetings, the Municipal Authority meeting, the Economic Development Authority, the Board of Adjustments, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Downtown Advisory, and the Planning Commission. So it's very, very comprehensive. Legislar program allows staff to load fact sheets and attachments for each item for the appropriate section of the meeting. And what you see there actually is a shot of Legistar, and that is an actual agenda. And the staff can go in and can click on that item, and they can make sure that all the documentation is needed for that particular item, so the council members or the appropriate board members can take a look at to make sure they have the information they need to be able to make decisions. What is a fact sheet? We have a lot of questions about a fact sheet. A fact sheet is just that. It's a fact sheet is a document summarizing the items of business. It lists the important facts, purpose, background, and any related costs and recommended actions. I've always believed that it's the proverbial who, what, where, when, and why, so to speak. Council members also want to know what the cost is going to be, and several of the council members, whenever we talk about money, always want to make sure that it's been appropriated, and if not, where's the money coming from? And so we try to include that information when it's appropriate in there. Okay, here we go. Titles for each item must be entered into Legislar by 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning, the week prior to the meeting. And it is a little bit like sausage making, because there's so much that goes into actually the back end, which is the agenda. There's a lot of documentation, as the council members understand. There's the fact sheet. There could be a copy of a contract. There could be copies of sketch plats, maps, or a whole host of different documents that we believe are going to be pertinent for you to have to look at in order to be able to make a decision. The draft agendas are reviewed and discussed at the weekly leadership team meeting on Wednesday at 9 a.m. For example, the May 16th draft agenda is reviewed on May 10th. So if you come in and walk through City Hall on the Wednesday before the council meeting at 9 o'clock, we'll be spending about an hour, at least the first part of it, going over each and every item, and each director, when we get to that item on the agenda, they'll spend anywhere from 10 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on the length of the item, making sure that everything that we believe you will need to make a decision is included in there. And what's important is there may be somebody that doesn't have an item on the agenda. However, we're so interconnected as an organization is that all the department directors like to hear what's going on with each item, because a lot of times agendas do touch more than just one department. So by going through the agenda, and I don't get hung up in, I let Beth Ann get hung up in what the wording for fact sheets is, because she does an awesome job at that. She does it 2 and 3 times on each agenda. So I'm getting paid for doing that. So, but really is that I want to make sure everything's in there, and that the directors are providing the most pertinent information that you need. And then as we go through the approval process, if something has to be changed, if something is not clear, because we're not looking just for content, we're looking for readability to make sure that how would we understand it, because sometimes Beth Ann and I may not see something that's coming to us for the very first time, so we read it as if we're going to be acting upon it. Okay, and the next item is agenda fact sheets and attachments must be entered by that Thursday morning when the quote-unquote workflow is started in the program. The workflow is the approval process which makes sure all the necessary directors and staff members review and edit the item before it is approved to go on to the agenda. And this is an actual screenshot that the folks get into when they're looking at an item as a part of the workflow process. Okay. When the agenda workflow is completed, all items are forwarded to the city manager for review that Friday morning. In most cases, I'm able to start approving the agenda sometime Thursday afternoon, but normally at Friday it's a mad rush with all of the items, because everybody's really have gone through and vetted it as much as necessary to make sure that they're accurate. And I'll get an email which will tell me that there's an item that I need to go into Legistar that I have to approve. Sometimes they come in, they multiply like rabbits, and then I'll go in and there'll be one email, but there'll be 25 items. And then what I have to do is I have to stop. That's why I keep my Friday mornings pretty free, because I try very hard to read through all of the titles. And most of it I understand from Wednesday, but there's a lot of items that I'll have to stop and actually review and make sure I understand, especially if it's going to be something I'm going to present on. But for the most part, by the time they get to me, they've gone through Beth Ann, they've gone through the director. Russell gets involved at sometimes, so they've truly been vetted to make sure that there's accurate information that you need to make decisions. Then what happens is the city clerk processes the final agenda items Friday afternoon and posts them to the public bulletin board outside City Hall as required by the Open Meeting Act and to the public website. Now, some of the council members have been around, whether it's been on the council or you've been on the planning commission, is back in the days when you used to get a packet delivered to you sometime Friday. And these were, I'm talking, depending on the meeting, they would be large books, because the city staff would have to spend a considerable amount of time copying all of those documents that you get in a link. And it's absolutely amazing. And I wanted to make that point to the public, is that if anyone ever takes the time to go into the agenda on the website and they click on that, they can see everything that the council members get to see. There isn't anything that, unless it's a closed session item, which the city attorney says is only for your eyes, is the people in the public, the people at home can go in and they can see everything that you see.
It didn't used to be that way. When we got the books, it wasn't like that.
That's exactly right. In my past, what we would do is there would always be a complete packet that would be available in the city clerk's office, and we would actually have citizens that would come up to City Hall sometime before the meeting and would take the time to go through that. And this is so much more convenient for the residents as well as all of you, because usually a year or two into your term, you're going, Mike, what do I do with all this? You know, because a lot of it's you want to keep, but when you're talking about minutes and ministerial type items, it just becomes recycling, so we're actually saving trees. Okay, the next item, the council authority members receive an email to the link. I'm a little ahead of myself. Agenda packets on Friday evening. It is customary for the council to review the packets prior to the meeting. This gives them 2 full business days to look over the information and ask questions. The city clerk's office ensures that all legal documents requiring signatures at the city council, BAMA, or BETA meetings are turned in prior to the meeting. Then the documents are processed, recorded, and filed after each meeting. Agendas are printed prior to the meeting and set out for the public in front of the lobby of the City Hall and outside the doors of the council chambers. Now, the one thing I want to mention, then I'll be glad to answer questions. I believe it's towards the end. Actually, I got a couple more. I want to make this point is that the City Council several years ago changed their meetings to Tuesdays, I understand. And I think it was a great decision, because when you get those packets, I don't think the public understands the magnitude of those packets. And I like the fact that you get the link on Friday, and then at your convenience on the weekend, you can go through all of the agenda or portions of it. And then what happens is, if you have questions, and this is what I want to address, is the consent agenda, okay? Because what the public sees is the council members a lot of times voting unanimously for something. Well, I've always believed that it's not a group think. I take the position that you all go through all of those items. And I can tell you is we have a new council member who every meeting so far has sent me questions. This meeting, there was only a couple, but you know, on June 5th, it might be 20, okay, because she's still learning what this means. What does this mean? What does that mean? And so that's what Monday and Tuesdays are for. It's an opportunity for you to ask those questions. Now, you could ask those questions in public at the meeting, and sometimes you do for many different reasons. But really, if you ask the question on Monday, you can get your answer, whereas if you ask a question at the meeting Tuesday night, staff might have to get back to you. Because the way we set up our schedules is that we leave Monday and Tuesday relatively flexible. Like I'm with my staff the entire morning from Tuesday at 9 a.m. till about noon, and that's specifically done. So if the council members, like you'll come in and see me with my staff, and then I have the city attorney, then I'll have HR, I'll have Russell, Kenny. Today it was my division. That's intentional. So if in fact council members have questions that Monday morning, Monday evening, I've got everybody I need right there that can help me get you answers, so you will be prepared for the meeting that night. So that's why I set my meetings up on Tuesday. Okay, if you go, all of the agendas, next item here, all of the agendas and minutes are available on the city's homepage, which is at www.brokenarrowok.gov, or directly on the website. And the website address is there. And if you go to the area, there's an arrow there. If the residents or interested parties go to where the arrow's pointing down, that's the homepage, and you can see everything. Everything is on there for anybody that they want to see going back to any particular meeting they have a question on. I mean, for example, when I was a candidate for Broken Arrow City Manager back in the spring of 2015, I spent way too much time going back and watching videos from the council members to understand the issues. I remember the former superintendent talking about the $370 million bond package the voters were going to consider, where he came before the council and explained that. And then I was following along the agendas myself to understand exactly how you interact with each other, as well as to learn a little bit more about you in anticipation of my interviews. And the residents can do the exact same thing. If there's something you can tell, that you can say, hey, listen, you know, go back to the June 5th meeting, and you can it's bookmarked to where they don't have to sit there and watch the video for 45 minutes before they get to that item. They can bookmark it, and it will take them to very close to where they want to go, so they can go right to that item if it's something that's of importance to them. So it's a very fluid process. And the next item I want to mention, this is very important, legal posting requirements. All meetings of public bodies shall be preceded by the advance public notice specifying the time and place of each meeting to be convened, as well as the subject matter or matters to be considered at the meeting. Agendas must be posted 24 hours prior to the scheduled meeting, excluding weekends and holidays. Agendas for special meetings must be posted within 48 hours prior to the meeting. Beth Ann and Lisa Blackford are very, very good about making sure that happens. Every now and then on Monday, we'll amend the agenda. As you all know, there may be something that's coming up. But you know what? If you don't get it in on time, then you got to wait till the next meeting. And this is accountability tool for the administration, is that council needs to make actions. Directors need to get their stuff before the council. I mean, when we go out to bid, for example, usually those bids are only good for a certain period of time. And if we don't get approval or an extension, those bids expire. And that happened earlier this year, and we weren't able to take action. So I think it's important that staff be held accountable to know that there are deadlines. And honestly, a lot of our schedules day to day is built around preparing ourselves for tonight. I mean, that's what we do 52 weeks out of the year, or as many times as each month. We come at least twice. Is we spend so much time preparing for the council meeting. And I wanted to talk a little bit more specifically about this, because if you're sitting out in the audience and you see everybody voting yes, sometimes you go, what? There's got to be debate on something. Well, if you know what? I feel like the council members have all the time, that adequate time to look. They have all the information, and if somebody wants to pull something off and talk about it, you do all the time. So I want to just thank Jennifer and IT for helping me put this together, and all the comments I got from the staff, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. Hopefully this has helped not only the council members as well as the audience and those folks that may watch the meeting tonight.
Council, any questions?
Thank you.